Our next guest, who's been in the studio several times, she's been on the program several times, she's just an all around neat person, is Erica Lukes. Erica became interested in the subject of UFOs at the age of 6 when she picked up her first book on UFOs. She spent the last 25 years studying the phenomenon with her interests focused on abduction research. Dr. John Mack, Bud Hopkins, Kathleen Martin, and Frank Salisbury have been an inspiration to her. She joined the big UFO organization and became a field investigator after several unexplained sightings she had in the Salt Lake Valley. Her sightings were eerily similar to those by Dr. Lynn Katai of the Phoenix Lights. After researching many case files, she became convinced that there's been unexplained phenomena for decades and that most of them are related. So without any further delay, let's get her on the line. Erica, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk and the Fringe radio show.
Well, Pat, I'm always happy to be here with you because I just have so much fun with you, and we're in the middle of a big, huge case.
We are. Okay. Well, we'll get into that.
Oh, right. Well, I just get a little excited about this sort of thing.
I know, and we got to talk about it. We got to talk about all the things that surround it. But before we get into that, how have you been doing, and how is the world of ufology doing for the state of Utah?
You know what? It has been really exciting. I've gone through a lot of transition that has been much needed, and I feel that I've got some really exciting projects in the works, and I wish I could give you a little bit more information, but all will be revealed. But it's fun, and I love doing what I do, and the more I learn, the more determined I am to really make a difference in the world with regards to what's happening with UFO, with the phenomenon.
Well, I want to say, you had me come talk about what we're going to discuss tonight, actually, at your UFO meeting. Now, that is something that you're going to continue on with, correct? You've put together a group that meets at different locations, and it allows locals in the area, anybody, of course, but local people here in Salt Lake to come gather together and talk about this subject.
Yes, and I definitely will be continuing that. I think it's important to have an outlet for people, and I also think that it is important to expand awareness and to let people know that this is not a fringe topic, and nor should it be treated like that. This is a very real thing that is happening, and it demands serious research and to be taken seriously by the mainstream scientific community and the media.
Without a doubt. Now, the one thing, we're going to talk about a lot of different stuff tonight, if it's okay. We'll kind of go all over the place. But the one thing, when I first came across you and was introduced to you, the orange orbs, were kind of the big thing, and I think that's still a big thing in your wheelhouse, because again, we get a lot of people that report sightings. And of course, fill out paperwork, and there's several organizations out there that record this information. But the one thing I think that always seemed to fall a little bit short, and I found so interesting, was your research and work on these orbs. They're not necessarily spacecraft in the traditional sense of, flying saucers or flying darts or what have you, but orbs, things that are somewhat, in some cases, even translucent.
They're very interesting. And when you go through any of the big databases, MUFON, we went through that, and
who was that again?
A majority of MUFON, and NUFORC, there are all these databases. You look back at their cases, right, and a majority of the cases, at least 60% are of these orange orbs or spheres or fireballs, whatever we're using to reference them. And so, to me, we have to look seriously at what this is, because this is the most prevalent type of sighting.
Right. And they come in all different forms too, correct? I mean, all different sizes, shapes. And you've reported yourself that now, I have to be honest with you, I have never seen an orb. I've seen them in pictures, and of course, we always think about orbs and connect that to the paranormal. I think that's what most people connect them to. But you've actually seen and had a lot of people here in the state of Utah report sightings of orbs.
Yes, and that's a really great point you bring up about the orbs. In fact, I had Chuck Wachowski on my show last night, and we had a funny dialogue about using orbs, because orbs is often, that word is associated with what happens in the paranormal realm, like when
Right.
you have a ghost encounter and you've got something in your room that's interacting with you, and so for us we need to more clearly define what that means. But in our research, the orb is a sphere or a fireball, as Peter Davenport likes to call them, and it is something that I have witnessed that is a very large, and it appears to be a solid object.
But it's I would assume it's glowing with some sort of color that
Yes.
discerns it, right?
And they're very interesting. The times that I have had experiences with them, and from the other witnesses that I've talked to, and I've talked to quite a few. I mean, it's a color, and the way it glows. I mean, it is a self-contained light.
Right.
You know, it doesn't reflect. It is very unusual, and it's beautiful. To me, I've never had an up close and personal experience with them, but have seen them, as have multiple people in the Utah Valley and all over the world. And the fascinating thing about this, the more I uncover, you listen to Dr. Jacques Vallée and different people. I mean, this is something that has been going on since the beginning of recorded history. It's just that we've had different ways of interpreting the same type of phenomenon.
Well, and we'll get into the orb thing too, because I want to get some of your input on colors of them. I know some people have expressed concerns that when they change colors, maybe that has some other meaning. All right, everybody, welcome back to Fringe Radio. Our guest tonight for the next 2 hours is Erica Lukes. Again, Erica, thank you so much for being here and giving up some time on your weekend for us.
Well, I can't think of a better way to spend a Saturday night. So thank you.
Well, let's talk about these orbs. It's interesting because, I never actually. One of our listeners just sent me an email message, and I think the concept of the orbs, when we talk about ufology or try to tie it in, we never really think about that. Again, you always think about bright lights and spacecraft and stuff like that. But we've got a big group of engineering students up at the U, and I always throw a shout out to those people because they're there for us every Saturday night listening. Said, going way back when to the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, if I'm sure everybody listening most likely has seen the movie. We always see the little spaceships flying around, but there's an orb that's always there. There's always that little red orb that seems to appear when the ships come through, when they have the scene where the police cars are chasing them and stuff like that. And of course, Dr. Hynek was in that movie, and of course gave a lot of creative consultation to the making of that movie. So yes, orbs and UFOs have been around a long time.
They have, and it's really interesting to see the perceptions change over time, or the belief systems. And unfortunately, I think we were much more open to things before maybe the 40s or 50s, when the government really got involved with things. And I think that's it's too bad, because we have a lot of these belief systems now that people are crazy for talking about this when they're not. This is just a simple part of life. This is what's going on around us. It's something we don't know about and we need to explore. And I really hope at some point in time we can begin to shift that perspective again.
Yeah, well, exactly. And the thing with the orbs, just kind of trying to tie them to different things. Again, because so many people, I think, do get not confused, but they do, directly relate them right to the paranormal, which I believe that they're in play there as well. But Grant Cameron, of course, a longtime ufologist, has done so much research, written so many books. But yet he talks. We had him in the studio here, and I've heard him on different radio programs. He talks about encounters with orbs, multiple sizes, multiple colors. I know he talks about one night, I believe it was him and his sons were out, doing some UFO hunting, and these orbs didn't trap him, but they were in front of a tunnel where he came out of a tunnel, and they were right there on the sides of the tunnel. And there was, I believe, an orange, a white, and a blue or a red, and they actually changed colors. It is interesting to find out what these things really are.
Yeah, and that's $1 million question, and I hope that we can do that. It's also interesting to note that when I've had done my research, there's a couple places that I've gone to find really, really good information, and one is NARCAP, and they've got specifically Project Sphere is a great research paper that they wrote on their experiences, and there have been lots of reports, aviation reports, submitted by commercial pilots where there are these orbs interacting with aircraft. And it can be incredibly frightening, and that is something that I believe, and I hope that the FAA will start to take seriously and then teach pilots how to better handle the sightings that they have.
Right. Exactly. Well, aren't the orbs, Erica? Aren't the back in World War II? Weren't those the Foo Fighters? The little
Yes.
The little things that would be around these I don't even know if they interacted with the airplanes, if they interacted with their instrumentation.
Yes.
But these little things were flying all over the place.
They were, and there have been some people that have said that in times of crisis, when there are wars or different things, that there is an increase in sightings. So it's very peculiar. We just need more research. We just need to really get in there and have different researchers kind of pull their information, and hopefully we can get people sharing their databases, and we can get in there and without bias, really do some hard work and figure this out.
Now, here in Utah, have there been a lot of sightings? Now, yourself, you've seen them, but through reports, have you come across a lot of orb sightings here in the Salt Lake Valley?
Oh, absolutely. And it is, that to me, that's what, as you said, that's why I got involved with investigating this, because I started looking around and looking at some of the different reports and talking to different people, and there is a lot of activity, and it's in the Salt Lake Valley. So it's right on the kind of the periphery over the Wasatch Mountains, over the Ochre Mountains. You've got Kennecott Copper Mine, you've got Dugway. So it just seems to be kind of in this area, and we don't really know why, but that is something that I can talk to people that lived out in Tooele, Kearns. They've had sightings their whole lives.
I've as I've mentioned on this program, and I talked to you, I've had a couple of sightings, and one just this last fall, but I've never seen any orbs. But now I'm starting to think that maybe those little dots of light that I was seeing, maybe those were orbs, bright white orbs at very high altitude.
I don't know. It's so fascinating, and the interesting thing too, and I've got to just say, because I believe that the orange orbs are the same orbs. This is just a thought of mine, a theory, that they're the same orbs that we're seeing during the day that are the white orbs. And we have lots of reports of those coming in. In fact, one of my dear friends, who is very skeptical, was outside with a couple people. They were doing some camera work as a photographer and videotaped some of these white orbs, and it was incredible. Pardon? Yeah.
What he picked up.
Yes. I mean, it's incredible footage. And even for him, I mean, he was standing out there. You can hear his banter back and forth with the people with them, and they were perplexed, and a couple of them, it's a flock of birds, the usual type stuff. But I had several experts in the field analyze them, and it was very peculiar. So we have something good, and this is not the first report that I have seen in the state of Utah of the same objects, and we have the mass sighting here that I will always talk about, because that is such a great case on October 2nd of 2014.
And did you see this sighting yourself?
I did not, and the really unusual thing is it was during the day, and I was alerted to it. It was about 12:10 when things started to really get exciting, and I was contacted by Fox News here, and they said that their Facebook page was just on fire. People sending these photos and different things and contacting them and wanting to know what these objects were. And then, where the MUFON reports came in, and I started to do some investigating, and it was an absolutely fascinating case. And as you know, the next day, these objects were seen over Colorado. And that made national news very, very quickly because there was a reporter over there who was really, really gung-ho, and he talked to the police, he talked to NORAD, and it was just nobody could figure out what it was.
Gotcha. Yeah, and if I remember right, I believe they even brought in an astronomy expert from the University of Utah to comment on it. There has been a lot of stuff. Again, the orbs. I need to keep my eyes more peeled to the sky. I just didn't know they were quite as prevalent here. I know I've seen a lot of different photos down, in Duchesne County from, in the Uinta Basin near Skinwalker Ranch. I've seen a lot of different things there in broad daylight. People take photos of stuff that's just hanging in the sky. But I didn't realize it was as popular as it is here right in the valley itself.
Well, I think it's just a matter of paying attention and looking up,
Yes.
and then also becoming an adept observer and really educating yourself and knowing what an airplane looks like, how a drone behaves, what's flying where, what different what airspace is for what, and then sitting back and putting things through a logical process of
Right.
elimination.
Right.
And even after you do that, you're going to find some very interesting stuff if you just are diligent and you pay attention.
Exactly. We got a caller on hold. You want to take a call?
Oh, let's do it.
All right. Caller, good evening. Welcome to Fringe Radio. You're on with Erica.
Hey, Pat. Hey, Erica. What's happening?
Long time no talk, Bill.
I mean, it just seemed like yesterday. Actually, I wanted to touch on this orb subject because one of our friends, Chris Brown, in Oregon, he had a close encounter with an orb, and it was spherical. It had like a red liquid in it with these orange flickering, what he describes almost like bee-like things flying around it, and it was tapping what he thought was electrical sources. And I think he mentions in the story that his account that it went into a ship. I don't want to put words into Chris's mouth, but I believe the orb was some sort of probe. Now, I'm wondering two things. I hear a lot of stories that people put a color code to the emotional feeling of an orb, like red being angry, cool blue being more of a friendly type. And also, have you heard of any probes, the orbs being used maybe as a probe, maybe communicating? Because there was an old friend of mine from a chat room, and she said that an orb tried to communicate with her telepathically. And I can't recall because it's been a while since I spoke with her, but I think that it led her upstairs, and then she can't remember much afterward. So I'm thinking maybe this is something that's used as a precursor to another level of a close encounter where maybe something else is going on. You know what I mean? Like this is used
Absolutely.
as a probe for the
Yeah.
next level of the encounter.
I think that there is a lot of evidence that would support that. You have in abduction cases, lots of paranormal cases that you do have them interacting before somebody loses that memory. And so we just don't know. And you had mentioned, which is interesting, kind of the colors changing with the moods of these objects. And I don't know if it's necessarily that or it's something else. And it just goes to show we need to study that a bit more. But it's I don't know. It's fascinating. And when you talk about Chris and his experiences like that are just amazing, and that is not uncommon.
Yes. And it's so interesting because it seems like these are the predominant sightings, whether it's paranormal, if you want to put them in a paranormal level. A lot of people think it may be spiritual in nature, or it is part of this UFO phenomenon. Like Pat was mentioning, he's seen that. I was on the phone. He called me that night. Said, Bill, I've got 7 objects. I just seen 7 objects converge on above me, and then they flew off in different directions. And what he described to me, it sounded like he was seeing orbs.
That's what that's what I'm starting to think now.
Yeah, I mean, and I've captured stuff here using my night vision equipment, and I got to say they're round, spherical. I don't know if it forms one object because I can't tell, but I've seen a cluster of what looks like these lights or orbs all together, and they shoot off. So yeah, it seems like this seems to be the prevalent sighting that is occurring now. Other than what Pat heard the pilot, I'm sure you guys are going to touch on that, which you worked incredibly hard on that, you and your team, Erica, as well as Bill Puckett, as it was involved with what Pat was involved in. That, I'm telling you, the way this thing is really blowing up is incredible. It's getting a lot of national. Yeah, I'll let you guys talk about that. But as far as the orb thing, yes, I think maybe it's connected. I don't know exactly what's going on. Because I think it's more than just paranormal. Maybe everything is tied together, but I think it may be a probe of some kind. That's just my gut feeling telling me that.
It was interesting in my show last night. Chuck was saying that he feels that they are probes, and it's interesting that these objects are seen oftentimes when they're cattle mutilations, and especially around Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, you have the cattle mutilations, you have the orbs. They're not necessarily a good thing, but then on the other hand, you've got some of these, the contact groups that are seeing these spheres of light, and they seem to be something very benevolent and that can intuitively connect with people. So I think you've got a little bit of everything, but I think it is important to make sure that we always remember we don't really know what it is, and we have to exercise a bit of caution with regards to this.
I mean, I think also it would make the person. I think I don't want to throw myself out there on a limb by saying this, but I think it may be a precursor, like I said, to a deeper abduction scenario where this is sent in to evaluate, to observe, and maybe even to try to control or manipulate the individual or individuals that they want to engage with, to assume some type of control over the environment and lure them into a sense of false security, and then they come in and take it to the next levels. And I'm saying that loosely, but it's seriously. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I think that may be occurring.
I do too, and I think that, boy, yeah. And I wonder sometimes when you've got the paranormal orbs occurring, this is the thing that fascinates me. And I think anybody that really digs their teeth into researching this, everyone that does that has to, at the end of the day, come out of this saying it's probably all connected.
Yeah.
And we need to break down the barriers with regards to having one UFO camp that is saying, oh, we can't talk about the paranormal aspect. We can't even bring that in because we'll lose credibility. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yes, and I want to thank both of you for doing the incredible work that both of you do as hosts and the research you do. And Pat, you're getting more involved in that aspect as well. And actually, you're in the center. You're a big centerpiece right now. What's going on? And I'm glad to see that it's getting the attention that it deserves. Thanks to Erica and her team, and to other people that are partaking in this. And of course, you, Pat, and Erica. I love your show, UFO Classified. Look forward to it every week. And Pat, as always, great show, great guest. Always a pleasure to hear your show and be a part of it as well. So you both have a great night, and talk soon.
You too, Bill. And I just want to say that if it wasn't for you telling me about Pat's thing that he overheard, the ham radio transmission, I don't think any of us would be talking about this case. So thank you very, very much.
There you
All
go.
right,
have a great
Bill,
night, you too.
Be good. Take care. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Fringe Radio. Erica Lukes is our guest tonight. Again, Erica, thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend to be here with us.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm always excited to be on your show because I think a lot of your work, and then I really enjoy having you as a friend.
Well, thank you. Same.
Thanks.
Same. The whole thing with the orbs, though, it is an interesting topic. And the more I don't consider myself a ufologist or a paranormal researcher by any means, but I learned so much by having guests like yourself and so many different researchers that have done this for so many years, and they dedicate a good portion of their life to this. But I truly believe that it is all interconnected, whether it's interdimensional, whether it's time travel. It all kind of seems to come together. These orbs, again, they seem to cross both realms. Why? I have no idea. I'd sure like to find out why, and I think we can study it to death, but until we have people, and we have some of our listeners that have experienced this in the past, they've experienced these orbs, they've had encounters with these orbs, and all from what I can tell, very life-changing and very positive. Maybe different, but still positive in the long run.
I think so too. And I will say that my experiences personally have been quite positive. It has definitely opened me up to learning more about our world and wanting to research things and hear about other people's experiences, which I feel is very important. But, I think there are some cases where you have these objects that are potentially negative and where they are kind of interacting with human beings in a negative way, a frightening way, and that's something that we need to be cognizant of as well.
Now, do you say that from a ufologist's perspective or a paranormal researcher's perspective?
I say that from both.
Okay.
Actually, and I always go back to a report that I had from somebody who was coming to me 20 years after his initial sighting, where he was driving late at night and he saw this orb in a tree, looked outside the car, and he was on a deserted stretch of road, and this object is just moving through, he said, moving through the trees like the trees weren't even there. It was just on a straight path, and then this orb darted across, away out of the trees, and literally hit his car in the side, picked his car up off the road, and his car, went off, and he was absolutely stunned, frightened out of his mind. He regained control and tried to figure out what had just happened to him, and he made a beeline straight for the military base where he was stationed and got in there and got out to look at his car because he was sure the whole car was caved in.
Right.
But he didn't want to get out right after that had happened because he was so terrified, but there was no damage to the car.
Was there damage?
So,
or just an electric?
No, there was no damage.
Wow. So maybe
whatever
it was an orb having a little bit of fun.
Well, if that's a good time, then you can count me out.
No, I know.
It is frightful.
Yeah. Well, I think the unknown frightens everybody, and then I guess just to play devil's advocate, or maybe to be neutral on the fence, did that orb strike in his car maybe save him from something else? Did it, while it scared him and terrified him, did it maybe push him out of the way for some other reason? Who knows?
Right. That's exactly it, and we'll never know. But it was, and you're right. At the end of the day, he was unharmed. The car was unharmed. He was very shaken up, but we just don't know. And even with the aircraft, when you look at the NARCAP reports, none of these objects have caused damage to the planes.
Right.
Which is very interesting. They've been close to the planes, and this is just my understanding, but this is what from my recollection, Ted and Dr. Richard Haynes and people like that have commented on. So there's really been, the only damage that has been done is the evasive action that maybe the pilot has taken to try to avoid these objects.
Right. Exactly. And that's, again, I have not done the level of research that you've done, But I will agree, the little bit that the surface that I've scratched with it, nobody, there's never been any physical damage or even electrical damage for that matter. Maybe, instrumentation went a little bit crazy or whatever, but there was no direct result, holes punched in wings or anything like that. Again, seemed like they were maybe deterrents, if anything.
Yeah, that is interesting, but I do have to, I go back to an interview I saw with Ted Phillips, and I think he was speaking at one of the conferences a while back, and he was talking about a case back in the early 70s where an orange orb sphere went through a town, oh my gosh, and I want to say it was Ethiopia, but I could be wrong about that, but it went through the town and basically leveled the whole town, and there was a small child that was killed in that process.
And this was an orb?
Yes.
Wow.
It's a very interesting report. And, I do believe that Ted Phillips, if you look at his work, I mean, he has some interesting work that he's done, and I'm not sure if he would necessarily think that they were benevolent, as would some other researchers. So, I mean, we don't know.
Right.
But we need to talk about it. We need to have the dialogue. We need to share information, and we need to get funding so we can go out into the field and really do the proper research it needs.
Is with a lot of organizations, do the orbs, especially when people encounter them, do they go in their own file, or do they kind of go on? Do they maybe fall under that heading of contact or abduction?
Oh boy, I think that depends on the database. It's, like if you've got the MUFON database, that would just go into an unknown. We've got different categories for things. The unknown category, you have the orb. It's just very difficult, to say. And I think that's one of the things that we wanted to do with Project Orange in MUFON, is really define that and then have better protocol for investigations and also better definitions, so it would make it easier for investigators to investigate.
Right. Well, and again, in as far as funding for scientific information, do you think, let me ask this question. Has anybody been able to physically measure any sort of electrical, or has there been any sort of a litmus test done? Has there ever been, again, probably when the orbs appear, it's just like a UFO. We try to grab the camera. What do? We zoom it out at the most, at the highest power. We snap a shot, and it's a big blob with lights, because I think the adrenaline gets rolling. Has anybody ever been able to measure any such sort of electrical field? With one of these?
Yeah, it's interesting because Hessdalen, Norway, has been an active location for 30 years, and is one of my favorite places to go besides NARCAP is projecthessdalen.org. They have done very incredible, really scientific research over there with regards to this phenomenon, and they have identified 4 different types of light phenomenon that behaves intelligently, that interacts. And so they've got lots of great scientific evidence.
Very interesting.
So it's fun. You need to go to that website. It's just, I get lost there looking at all the papers.
Really?
And they also have the only observatory in the world that was specifically built to research UFOs. It's very cool. And they have a live camera.
Wow. No, that is interesting. The other thing that I've seen too periodically, Erica, I've watched a lot of videos on crop circles. Patty Greer has been on my program a couple times. She has done some amazing work. But I've come across a couple videos, I don't know if they were hoaxes, some people say they are, of what it appeared to be a little white orb that was actually whistling around in these crop circle areas, and some people thought that possibly the orb was creating the circle.
Yes. In fact, you're right. Patty Greer actually has some incredible footage that I believe is in one of her movies where she was out, and I remember her telling me this story. She was out on a helicopter, hanging out of a helicopter, trying to take some overhead video footage of the crop circles. And as she got back to editing and she slowed down the film, there were two orbs that were seen in conjunction with this crop circle being formed.
Right.
And it was incredible. And so, that's a great thing. There are orbs that have been witnessed by many, many people over the crop circles. And I will let you know, because I'm going over there and I cannot wait to go see my first crop circle.
When is this taking place?
Yeah, I'm going over there this summer.
Very good.
So
Vacation or research?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to meet Gary Hesseltine, which will be great fun. He's a great researcher. And then I'm hoping that I can talk with Larry Warren and meet him while I'm over there. And we're going to be just seeing the sights and doing some good stuff. Maybe we'll go up to Loch Ness. That'll be cool, too.
Oh, that would be real. So you're making it a vacation/research project?
I am, which is every vacation for me.
No, I think that's cool. I mean, to be, I would love to go experience that. People come from all over the world to see it, and some people still. It's amazing. There's some people that still feel it's some sort of a hoax. But boy, I'll tell you, if it's a hoax and a couple of guys with some boards, especially when they can make some of these crop circles that are 6-7 miles across, I'd love to see that happen in the middle of the night with a couple hillbillies and a board and a rope.
Well, I'm sure you probably have had Patty Career talk about this story on your show before, but she told me on my show a while back about a couple fellows that were trying to get out there in the field and hoax this, just to prove everybody wrong. And I think they had an experience where they got out there and they were, I don't know if they were surrounded, but there was some sort of experience that they had with these orbs, and they were seen at the local pub, and they were, they needed to probably change their clothing.
I bet. I bet.
So it's interesting. And, a lot of that, I'm sure some of that is hoax, and that's great, but a lot of it isn't. And it's absolutely fascinating.
Well, again, especially when they appear in the middle of the night, in a matter of hours, these things seem to be made. Has anybody ever caught is Patty caught actually, is she caught video footage of it actually happening?
I do believe that the video that she has with the two orbs, that a crop circle was being formed underneath the orbs.
Okay. Because it seems like everybody that goes there, they'll take photos of it before, and then the next day, there it is. Like it happens in the middle of the night.
This is such a new thing for me, and I definitely am going to go over there and absorb every bit of information I can get and sit in a pub and talk to the locals and learn as much as I can. But whatever it is, there definitely is some sort of energy over in that area that is unlike anything in the world.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a vortex for all sorts of things. And it sounds like a very spiritual, very unique type of place. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, it is. It'll be interesting to get your perspective. And I've had a handful of guests on the program here. Of course, the time difference, it makes it tough. Although I am now learning the wonders of pre-recording shows, and we've got quite a few captured with people from over there. But it is interesting. I would love to get your perspective when you get back on how people view these topics over there. I wonder if they have the same, if they take the same stance or the same view on things.
It is always interesting to get out of the United States and listen to different people's viewpoints. I think that when you're probably anywhere other than the United States, there is a much more open-minded approach to this, because this is something that has been accepted, especially with indigenous cultures, forever. And it's respected and talked about, and so I think that it's going to be a great learning experience for me, and I'm really looking forward to all of the communications that I have, and I will be definitely videotaping that and then posting some of the video and the interviews I do. So it'll be cool.
Oh, that is going to be cool. Are you going to kind of do a little documentary type of thing while you're there?
I might. It just depends on if I can find a capable camera person. But you never know. I mean, the selfie, I could do the video selfies. Who knows? But I definitely want to have some sort of document. I want to document my experience.
I could see you running around with a selfie stick and a pint of beer in your hand.
That wouldn't work out for anybody involved. In fact, that would be the biggest safety hazard I can think of. Can you imagine? They would really say, "Oh, that dumb American. Here she is again."
No, not at all. Not at all. No, not at all. It's going to be a lot of fun. That will be fun to capture it, and again, to hear the stories. I hope we can get you on the program right after you get back. All right, let's get back to our guest. Erica Lukes is our guest tonight. Erica, again, thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight and share your work and everything that you're doing. And we truly here in Utah appreciate what you're doing for the unexplained. Erica, are you there? Hello?
There's a little thing called a mute button.
Oh, okay.
People who are electronically challenged sometimes might forget to hit that.
Well,
yes, I'm here.
It does happen. A question, matter of fact, the caller that called in, if he wants to call back and talk more, that'd be cool. But he brought up a good point with these orbs. How can we tell whether these orbs are these Chinese lanterns or not? Because that was a problem for a long time. I think people were reporting, on a clear night or even a not so clear night, as long as the wind isn't blowing like crazy, these things just kind of float and hover around. I've seen a few over the years that made me wonder.
They can be deceiving, and I think that it is important to know, though, that they typically don't burn for, my gosh, the fuel cell on a Chinese lantern lasts from 5 to 7 minutes, and they don't, it's something that is obviously moving with the wind, and
right.
I think that a lot of times really credible sightings are discounted because people assume they're Chinese lanterns when they're not. So we really need to learn to identify and know what the difference is. A Chinese lantern is not going to be as large as some of the objects that are being reported. And also, when you take a photograph of it, because the flame is at the bottom, you'll notice that the photograph, the orb, the heat signature is different. And when you're really photographing a sphere, a true orb, it's very symmetrical, whereas a Chinese lantern is not. So
it's kind of like a squatty pumpkin.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's a good point, though, because again, and that is a good point that he brings that up, because if you see something, well, first of all, if it catches your attention, keep your eyes on it. Maybe it is a lantern, and maybe it isn't. But I know in the distance, I've seen a few of them, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. I believe in Utah, I could be wrong. I believe that they've been outlawed because if they land in the wrong place, that paper catches fire, and then now you've got a whole new problem.
Right. And when I started doing that Project Orange research project, I called every fire marshal in the United States. And we don't, there are a majority, I think 49 states in America have made it illegal to launch a Chinese lantern because they are incredibly dangerous. So even though that doesn't stop people from ordering them off Amazon or some other place and lighting them,
right,
it does make it a little bit less likely that perhaps everything we're seeing is a Chinese lantern. So I think it's important for people when they're seeing something to pay attention to how they're moving, to pay attention to if, lots of times we'll get some of these videos where you're seeing the Chinese lanterns, they'll all move together. They'll move with the wind. And
right.
Sometimes when you get the orb videos, you've got objects that are hovering in one place for 20, 30 minutes at a time. Well, we know that a Chinese lantern can't do that because it wouldn't be burning for that long, and it wouldn't be capable of holding in that a particular place. So it is interesting.
They are
the thing
cool
is.
though. It is a shame that I mean they're dangerous. They really are, but they are pretty cool. I know here over not too far from the studio. I don't think they sell them anymore, but there was an Asian store that used to have boxfuls of them. You could go buy a 12-pack, I think, for $3. And that came with
Oh
the
dear.
it came with the little candle, came with the little what do they call that? The in the little metal container that you'd light, a votive candle or whatever.
Hmm.
And it would be fun to launch a couple, but no, they are dangerous, and again, they they don't need to be flying around in our airspace. Have UFO? We're going to get on to the next subject here in a little bit. We got to take one more quick break in about 4 minutes. But UFO sightings in Salt Lake City in general, are they up? Are they on the rise?
Oh boy, it's really difficult to say. I think that there has been there's been consistent activity for decades. I think the problem is that people don't understand that there is a place where they can go to report things, and I'm hoping that that's changing. We do have places you can go to submit a report, like New Fork, MUFON. We have started our own database here and a research organization called the Utah UFO Research Project. And so we will be taking reports and then interviewing witnesses and doing things there too. And so we just need to spread public awareness to let people know that we're here. And also Dave Rosenfeld, he investigates UFOs. So there are people here that are capable of doing that, and we need to all work together and encourage the public to come forward with what they've experienced.
Well, and the other thing I'd like to make a quick comment on without going too deep into it, people do need to work together, and they need to keep, they need to be ethical, and they need to keep all the political crap out, because it's just like any organization, the minute it gets big and the politics set in, now the basis of what it was formed for is lost. And that's one thing that's so sad to see. It really, things tend to move in different directions. I understand that people have differing opinions, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's good that people challenge each other. But again, when it's nothing but a political mess, the message and the intent and the purpose gets distorted so quickly. So I'm glad to see that you are starting something and building something here locally.
I always will do that, and I think that not only locally, but I have been very fortunate to work with some of the best people in the world, and I've fostered great relationships with them, and I will continue to do that and hopefully make some big changes, not only here in Utah, but I'm really hoping and very positive that can be in a global sense, because we need that, and I always feel that being a professional business person, that we need to have integrity, and that is really lacking in this field. Mm-hmm. And I think that if any field, not even ufology, if any field wants to be taken seriously, they have to be a little bit mindful of the way they treat other people, and they have to be mindful of unethical behavior, and they need to, if there's unethical behavior taking place, then I think that needs to be called out, and it shouldn't be tolerated.
Right.
And that is something that I think it would be a very big benefit to this field if we could behave correctly, like human beings,
yeah.
and support each other.
That's true. No, I totally agree with you. We were talking right before we went into the commercial break, Erica, about again the politics of so many organizations. Are there anything else you'd like to discuss and talk about?
I just want to say that the one thing that has kind of struck me is coming in to this. I've always researched this, but I haven't had my feet wet, so to speak, except for my coming into this and really, really coming into this. I mean, I came out of nowhere, and I admit that. But I've watched different groups of people really, when you look at Facebook, you look at different organizations, and there's always this undercurrent of really negative almost abusive bullying behavior. And I think sometimes we need to step back, and if people are engaging in that type of behavior, they need to be called on it, because that does nothing to further anything that we're doing. And the bottom line is the majority of us out here are putting in our own money. We are sacrificing tremendously to do this, making personal sacrifices. And I think that every time somebody engages in this type of behavior, it really undermines what we do. And I know personally, I mean, I've had some experiences that would just curl your hair. I think being a woman in this field and all sorts of things, you know, there's some of that kind of sexism that comes into play. And I mean, someday I will sit down and write a book about all my experiences, because I think what I've gone through is unacceptable in lots of regards. And I don't feel that lends to the value of what I'm trying to do or what anybody is trying to do.
Exactly. No, I agree with you. Again, it's everybody needs to be treated with respect, and I think in today's society, it's very sad. And I hate to say it, but I see some of these young kids today and the way they act. When I was that age, if I would have said some of the things that I see kids say to their parents today, I'd have been killed, you know. And as a society, we're really, it's sad, but we're really slipping deep. The lack of respect is there, and it's really sad. And especially when you put a lot of time and effort, like you said, into what you're doing, and you get knocked down for it. It's tough, but the strong dust off and stand up and get going again, and that's what you've done, and that's my hat's off to you.
Well, I thank you very much. I feel very compassionate to all the people, all the witnesses that I've spoken with over my few years doing this, and I feel that there's something I feel compelled to do, and I want to do the best I can, and I want to help people, and I want to make the biggest contribution that I can make, because to me this is the most important thing I will ever do. And so I have to work through all the lower level politics and all the ego and nonsense that goes on, and I have to hopefully, you know, get through that and then focus on some really positive things and make the biggest difference that I can. Right. So I look forward to that.
Well, and we look forward to having you stick in with it, and even if you're, you know, sometimes in life we get a little sidetracked and we have to take a little different path, but I'm starting to find out that usually there's a reason why everything happens, and you go with your gut and your instincts, and you did, and it's a new chapter and a new day.
And I will tell you, it's very exciting. The past week I've had some amazing things happen, and I know that good things are happening, and they're going to continue to happen, and I hope that I can really, you know, like I said, I just want to make big change. I just want people to feel like this is acceptable, like this is something that we shouldn't be hiding, you know, in our closets. Like this is something that is a normal part of life, something that we can talk about openly, and whatever I can do to do that, then I will do.
I agree with you. That's why I've been here every night for, I think, 7 years. Well, not every night, but every Saturday night. I feel that
it's so great.
You got to get the word out.
You say that you're not a researcher, but I mean, you've listened to so much, and to me, that's the best. What better research could you do than to listen to all of these wonderful stories and experiences of researchers in the field?
They're amazing. They really are, and that's why I feel that I need to do this. It's a lot of work. It really is, but it's fun, and it educates people. And there's some people that don't believe. Some people may even think you're nuts. I was told that, But that's okay. That's okay. That's fine. Everybody, there's an old joke about opinions, but we're on terrestrial radio, and we're not going to go there with that.
Well, and isn't that funny? Because I think that's so. It's almost, the more I learn about this. I mean, there is so much research. I mean, there is. Oh my gosh, we've got 50 years of research, of government documents, of, and then you can go back throughout history. Come on, this isn't crazy. We're not nuts.
No.
You're the one who is clearly, if people have that opinion, then perhaps they might need to see a therapist, because it just sounds like an anger issue.
Yeah. It is. I do. I believe it. But hey, that's okay. Again, that's what makes the world a unique place. Before we move on to our next subject, you do a radio program. Why don't you let our listeners know on Friday nights, correct?
Yes, I do. And I love it. It's called UFO Classified on KCOR.
Okay.
And it's a 2-hour show. It's 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I have, just the best people in the world. You've been on the show. I love it. You were right after our case. And I love it. I get to talk to, my gosh, I've got Shannon LeGros next week. I have Steve Murillo coming up, all sorts of great people. And it's really informative. I also will be updating people with the cases in Utah here, as you do too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun.
Well, there you go. I got William Shatner sitting right in studio here with me, but he's being very quiet tonight. No, I probably shouldn't say that. I'll get sued.
No, you cannot say that in front of me. You know how I feel about Shatner.
I know. He just turned 85.
In fact, my birthday, I got another Shatner picture.
Did you?
I did.
A friend of mine got a Shatner mug who's a big-time Star Trek fan. If he's listening out there, Chris, happy birthday to you, my friend. I saw that on Facebook today. So Friday nights, KCOR is a great digital station. These digital stations are doing so many great things, and again, getting the word out to everybody, and it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun, and I've met some great people at IRN and KCOR. There's some really good digital networks that are really spreading the word, and I think that digital network will really be the medium for bringing about disclosure, because we're talking about it, and it's not going to go away, and this is the way we're doing it.
Right. No, I agree. We're doing some really cool things at K-Talk to even bring more digital media to people at different times.
That is great.
It is. But like I said, it's an honor to do this, to be able to do this radio program on a terrestrial AM station and not have Big Brother tell you what to say. There's very few independent radio stations left in the United States, and it is an honor to be a part of United Broadcasting, and they allow us to do this. So
that is wonderful. And I hear Merrill's coming back.
Is he?
I did hear that. In fact, we went to dinner with him the other night.
You mentioned that. Matter of fact, he reached out to me a long time ago to come on the program, and I got to get him on the program. And be good to get both of you on at the same time in studio here and talk to Merrill Cook about it. Yeah, he's been a long-time fixture at K-Talk, without a doubt. Are we done, or can we move on?
Well, I just want to say that I think it's been an interesting thing. I've known Merrill, 30 years. I hate to even verbalize that. That sounds horrible, but I know. My grandmother was a big supporter of Merrill Cook, and I used to just say to her, "Oh my gosh, grandmother, how could you vote for for that Republican?" I mean, I was was a little bit more liberal back in the day, and it is so funny because she was one of his best friends and a great contributor to his campaigns, and then for Merrill and I to be friends now. I mean, I know that my grandmother would get the biggest chuckle out of that. It's a really funny story, but I adore Merrill, and I appreciate the work that he's doing, and that takes a tremendous amount of courage for somebody in politics to come forward and to talk about this the way it deserves to be talked about.
Yeah. Well, and again, watching him during Steve Bassett's thing, he hit it right on the head. I mean, he really did. And it's good to have a supporter like him with his credibility involved with this.
It is, and I think that all of us, including you, we will be doing some great things here in Utah. So I look forward to that.
Me too. Yeah, I'd love to hear him back on K-Talk. I know during the weeks, Jim Kirkwood, a good friend of mine, has some of the original, K-Talk's been around for 51 years. Yes, we have bigger stations in the state with other call signs, but this one has been here for 51 plus years. And it's good to see on the weeknight shows Joe Redburn and some of the other people that used to do programs here years and years ago back on the air again with different hosts. So it's fun. It truly is a lot of fun. Speaking of radio, now can we move on?
Yeah, you can move on now. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for humoring me.
A couple to set the stage for those that don't know. I've mentioned this several times on the program, but as most listeners know, I've been an amateur radio operator, a ham radio operator for over 40 years, and it's really been great for me because doing terrestrial AM radio, it's really come full circle for me. For a short period of time, we were being picked up by a international shortwave broadcasting station, and of course been doing the program here for many years now. But it's really been a dream come true. But there's so many facets to ham radio, and people go back and listen to the different programs I've done. Carol Perry was here. She started an amateur radio program in the New York City inner schools 30-some years ago. She's now retired, but works with children from all over the world to bring amateur radio into their lives. She offered me which I was so honored to speak at the Dayton Hamvention this year. I just can't make it this year, but I will do it next year. So it's been just a lot of fun. It's been a ton of fun for me. But one part of the hobby that I got into was scanning, and I have a scanner, several of them actually, a police scanner, and a lot of times when I get tired of listening to the crime and people getting pulled over, I listen to the airport frequencies. And back in January, I was actually working late at night, my desk at home, where I've got all my radio equipment set up. And I was listening to the airport scanner, and I picked up something I heard on the scanner that I could not believe. I actually Facebooked about it on the Fringe Radio's page for just a minute, and then I passed it on to Erica. And she took it, and she absolutely ran with it. It was a flight, an American Airlines flight, that started talking about seeing a bright orange large square that was not on the ground but in the air. And we started talking about it, and she turned it over to she got Bill Puckett involved, and this thing has just kind of gone crazy.
It has, and it just it thrills me because this is to me this is a really important case, and I think to a lot of other people, they understand the gravity of this case because we have so much evidence.
Yeah.
So you gave that report to me, and I trust you implicitly, and with all of your experience with the ham radio stuff, I knew that I needed to act quickly, and so you gave me the ATC website, and you told me the frequency that you were listening to when you overheard the transmission and the way things went. So I got my then Assistant State Director at the time, Jeff Cox, involved, and I said, okay, let's just listen to all of these, download them immediately. We're going to listen to them. I knew that I needed to contact William Puckett because I've worked with him before, and I trust him implicitly. And so he said, this is great. We went to work, and we were able to, through everything, kind of verify that, yes, we have an audio tape of a pilot describing this large orange square.
We do.
And he appears to be a little bit, unnerved.
Actually, it's the Fringe Radio Zone. It's been a long night. Erica, okay. So we were talking right before the break there. Yes, I picked up the transmission on the scanner, and you took it, and Bill Puckett from UFOs Northwest really ran with this thing. And, well, not him, you and your team. I mean, all the work and the follow-up work that I saw on his site, just an amazing effort by all of you.
It is such a pleasure to work with people like Bill because he always teaches me so much, and it's been a very exciting case for Utah, for Jeff and myself, and for Bill, and we just hope that we will continue to learn more. I believe that this case is not an isolated incident, and I think that if we just encourage people to talk about their sightings and to start to really get out there in the field and do some good research, we can find out a lot more. And I hope that we can utilize people like you, Pat, that get in there and scan the frequencies. I think that there are definitely conversations that can be overheard sometimes that would be very beneficial to what we're doing.
Oh, it is, without a doubt. And you know, I have been on with Bill on some other shows, and of course I was on your show. It doesn't take a lot of money to acquire the equipment. You can go to the Big Box W store if you want and pick up a scanner. Bearcat Uniden has a very affordable scanner that covers the frequencies. And you're able to go ahead and scan through and listen to all the aircraft stuff. It's all public information that's out there. And go ahead and listen through it. And you know, again, it's kind of like a UFO sighting. You have to be up, you know, you have to be listening. You have to be active to hear stuff. Again, you know, I can't sit there 24 hours a day. But it was just by chance that I came across this. We do have a call. Well, we had a caller, but they dropped off.
Dang it.
I know. I don't know why it flashes in here once and then goes away. Well, we'll see if they call back again. But anyway, it wasn't a very expensive. It isn't that expensive to get a receiver that can hear the stuff. And again, there's plenty of websites out there. If anybody wants information, they can go to fringeradioshow.com. Email me, and I'll send you some suggestions and some sites. Okay, we got a caller. We're going to take the call. You ready? All
ready.
Right, here we go. Caller, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Erica.
Yes, this is Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Yeah. Jeff is he's my partner in crime, my assistant state director that has been working with me on this case.
Oh, very good, Jeff. Jeff, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, then it's fun. And I have to just say, Pat, really quickly that Jeff has been a really integral part of this investigation. He went down to Nephi and specifically went to the different areas where there were where we had some radar with the blips, and so he went down there. And Jeff, tell us what you found.
Well, went down there and got with the real country people and asked a few questions. And basically, the folks themselves never really saw anything. But once we got out there and going off the radar hits off of William Puckett's inquiry with the FOIA, we took those hits, those GPS lat longs, and we actually traced them. And we were able to discover that wherever this sighting was, it was over a field between I-15, Levan, Nephi, and Shepherd Lane. And that's where all the hits were. And as we discovered, along with each lat long and the time frame, we discovered that the UFO, or at least the hits themselves, which happens to be occurring. A revolution is every 12 seconds, so there's 5 revolutions within a minute. We had 106 hits out there. And as we went through the time frame, we noticed that the actual hits would move sometimes a mile to a mile and a half within the 12-second time frame. So we kind of figured that out, played with some numbers, and it was approximately 420 miles an hour, according to the hits. Now, we don't know how big this thing was and whether it was turning, so on and so forth. We don't know if it was down toward the ground. It's maybe close to 5,000 feet, possibly up to 20,000, 25,000 feet. We just don't know, due to the radar being 88 miles out toward Francis Peak from Nephi, and then down to Cedar City, 155 miles. But both those radar hits were actually situated on the program that we got from the FOIA to William Puckett.
Very interesting. I saw that you went ahead and actually went down there and took a bunch of photos. I actually posted the link up on our Facebook page, and in Inception Radio, people can take a look at that, and posted some pictures. Good job, man. That was that was cool to get a on the ground view and look at it.
You know, it was interesting too to notice the contrails too, right over that area. I mean, I would say the contrails are even more there than they are over Salt Lake City. I mean, it just seems like an intersecting point. What was funny about the whole situation, though, was we went across I-15. About the only thing we saw over there on the west side of I-15 were power lines. We looked for mines. The only thing there was south of that was coal deposit, where the cars from mowing. I'm not sure. It's a town about 30 miles out, coal mine. Anyway, they dropped their deposits there, so there was really nothing. I mean, we walked the field, we drove it, we talked to a farmer on a tractor. Nothing made sense as far as it being down toward the ground. So my calculation was it had to be up, and the pilot looking over the nose of the aircraft and saying it's directly in front of his nose, down from his nose. I've flown in many aircraft. I've been a chief investigator for 20 years at various bases in the Air Force, at Hill, Nellis, at Yokota Air Base, and senior director over in Europe. And I have flown so many times in the cockpit, and you're looking out miles, okay? Something that he would describe. It just wouldn't make sense any other thing. But being directly in front of the nose, with the aircraft going from San Francisco to Philadelphia, and asking what's the lights off to the right. Basically, he was asking what's the town off to the right, which was Nephi. So everything was pretty much directly in front of him. But what's interesting is the time frame is that all the radar hits are past Nephi and along I-15 between Levan, I-15, and Nephi. So it still throws a puzzlement in my mind.
Well, if we can, we're going to go ahead and play just to set the stage, as I mentioned before. This was actually on January 14th, between 12:12 and 12:13 a.m. in the morning. Now, one thing that you will not hear on this tape that Bill was able to obtain is what I heard. And at the start of we pick up the conversation here, but prior to this, the airplane actually requests the American Airlines flight 434 keys up his mic. The pilot or co-pilot keys up the mic and says, "Did you see that on radar?" Okay. Now that's not in this file that we're going to play for you. There are several, there's Salt Lake City Tower, there's approach, departure, Salt Lake Center, depending on what path the plane is flying on, whether east or west, north or south. There's several different recordings that take place, but you will not hear that mentioned where the pilot requests without identifying, did you see that on radar? I wish we had that piece, but we don't. But I'm going to go ahead and play for you. This is only 45 seconds. This is what I heard. This is what Bill and Erica's team all pulled together the night of this incident, and this is kind of what has driven things.
American 434.
American 434, go ahead.
You would happen to know what this bright orange square is we're flying over, would you?
No, that's a good question. I'm not sure. Is it off to your right side?
It's like directly off our nose right now, like right below us. So we've been watching it for a while. It's like Tower Wood is. It's a perfect square, and it's bright orange. What town are we next to? This town right off our 2 o'clock low.
American 434, that is Nephi, Utah.
Nephi, okay, cool. Now, see what I can find. Thank you.
You bet.
Pretty interesting stuff. So they obviously saw something quite large.
They did, and I think I just have to say that I spoke with another commercial pilot, and there's protocol, and there's certain things that you do talk about, over the air, and certain things you don't. And for a pilot, I believe, this is my own interpretation, and it's been kind of verified by this commercial pilot I talked to, you don't go on air unless you have something that is very profound. And
right.
So I believe, like you do, because you heard more of the transmission, that there was something that was concerning.
Well,
I was trying to find out about.
Exactly. And I believe that whatever they saw was concerning enough that they thought possibly they were going to run into it or it was going to interfere with them in some way, shape, or form.
Well, anytime a pilot sees something that's a little bit odd, he's going to call it in. It's just amazing that he was able to go over the normal channel, and then I believe, if I'm correct, Erica, that he switched over to emergency channel, and that's when things started dated as far as our investigation with Bill and company.
Yeah.
Well, there was a bit of the audio tape, a small section that was redacted of the audio tapes. And Bill Puckett, through his analysis, found that redaction. So was that the piece that you were talking about where the pilot is asking if they had it on radar? I don't know. We'll never know, but it is very intriguing. And we have, with the radar and the audio tape, we have an amazing sighting here.
And a lot more work to be done.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we are, even though the case is closed in the MUFON files, that it is not closed for us because we will still be working on this.
Well, and again, with Bill, with you guys, and with Bill's longevity, and again, this is a lot of work. People need to realize the amount of work that it took to put this together. Again, you go to UFOs Northwest and take a look at it. It's an amazing amount of work, and again, Erica and your team, and I mean, you guys just, I gave you the ball, I handed the ball off to you, and now my scanner is actually hooked up to an MP3 recording device, so that if in the future I ever hear something out of the ordinary, I can instantly start to copy it and grab the tape as it's, not the tape, but record it as it's being broadcast over the air.
Oh, that is perfect, and we're all going to do that. I know Jeff and I are going to get scanners, and you're going to have to come out here and teach us how to work them. But I think that's important, and I hope if anybody else that is a ham radio operator is listening to this and can reach out to us, that would be wonderful. We need all the help we can get, and I think if we all work together, we can have more incredible cases like this. It's fun.
Oh, it
amazing.
is.
Pat, kudos to you, though. I mean, you knew where to go, and And we picked it up from there, and then Erica had her contact with William. I'm telling you, it takes a team effort. There's no doubt about it. It would have taken us, I mean, we put in hundreds of hours of work into this. And really, once we turned it over to Bill, I mean, he knew the ins and outs and how to go with the FOIA and how to get the radar blips with his meteorology background of who knows how many years. And
Right.
and all this just paid off. I mean, but it was a team effort.
Well,
It was, and we're that team, and we can all do, we can all do great things. We just need to have a network.
Well, and I think you guys have definitely put that together, and it is interesting. This thing has kind of gone a little viral, so it's been kind of fun. And like I said, if any of the listeners have any interest in getting set up, send me an email through the Fringe Radio Show or even K-Talk's site, and I'll send you some information back. I found it real interesting. It just was happenstance that I was working and I had the radio on, but we found something that's a little bit more solid, I think.
This is very solid, and I have to say it's made international news. I was on Jaime Maussan's channel last week, and I will be putting that video on my website, so UFOclassified.com, and then I will send that to you too. So this is, and I have to thank Alejandro from Open Minds, who interviewed me on his show and then also wrote a great article. You know, when Open Minds does something and they are very professional and know how to do it, and I appreciate their support and realizing that this is an important case.
Well,
And Pat, thank you again for coming down to the Utah MUFON meeting and giving your little spill. And I know the crowd appreciated it.
well, it was my honor, and it was nice to be asked. Guys, I got to let you go. 4 hours has really flown by, but I've had enough for tonight.
Oh,
And I'm going to go
you know
dig.
what?
I'm going to go home and play radio a little bit. But no,
Okay,
it
put
was an
your
honor
feet up.
to
You
have you
deserve it.
and A.R. Roberts and Erica is always welcome on the program, and all of our listeners that listen to us through all the different mediums. It was so much fun, and we got to do it again, and we'll just keep trudging along.
Well,
Thank you,
thanks for
Pat.
having us on tonight.
Okay, take care. God bless. We'll stay in touch.
God bless.
All right.
Thank
Good night, everybody.